shout. Elijah Rock coming out.
I actually got the memo today, so I'm coordinated with the choir. So, as I said at the opening, we are in week 3 of our book study, and the book that we're exploring is The World Could Be Otherwise by Norman Fisher. And this week, we're looking at chapter 4, which is about patience. And this idea of patience as a way that we can cultivate inner peace. Anybody in here want to experience more inner peace? Is anybody with me on that? So the premise of the book, and if you're just coming into the book study talks, you can take a look at my previous talks that I've done. Each week I'm focusing on a chapter in the book. And so the premise of the book is this idea that we can take our power of imagination, which is our capacity to envision and perceive and to dream, and we can take that power, which in and of itself doesn't actually change anything, right? We need to take our capacity to envision and to dream, and we need to bring something else into it to make it manifest in time and in space. And what he suggests is what are known as the 6 perfections, and this is Buddhist theology. And the 6 perfections are generosity, ethical conduct, patience, joyful effort, I can't wait till next week, meditation, and understanding wisdom. And in this book, the premise that he's operating from, which aligns with what we believe in unity, and again, I will say this again, you don't need to get bogged down with the Buddhist terminology if that's not something you're particularly comfortable with. We are looking for the intersection of where this teaching and unity come together, because those are truly universal principles of truth. Can you feel that? Right? That when we align with all these other teachings, that's because there is this understanding of universality that is happening. And so what he says is that we're all called to be bodhisattvas, and a bodhisattva is like a Buddha in training. And we're called to practice compassion, devoted to be of benefit to others. One of the reasons why I picked this book is because, number one, it's filled with a lot of practices, so it's very real in real time. But the focus in New Thought, because we understand that it's an inside job, there can be a tendency in New Thought that we sort of stay in the inside job. We think it's all about us. And on one level, it is all about us. And on another level, it has nothing to do with us at all. Does that make sense to everyone? So the focus of being devoted to be of benefit to others, that to me is a really important component of what we need to understand in unity. That we say that there is only one power and one presence and there's nothing separate, and yet we can become very, very internal. So there is something that we're all being invited into, and that's why I love the practices, because the practices make it happen in time and in space. So let's make sure we have the ground rules set, right? These perfections and the precepts that are in the book, they are impossible, right? They are aspirational concepts that support the personal and universal well-being. So for those of you out there who are perfectionists, can I see your hands, please? You know who I'm talking to. It's not about being perfect, right? Carolyn Gautier caught this in meditation. The shift from practice makes perfect to practice is perfect. And so we actually can't really practice them, but we practice them anyway. And the idea is that we're trying to make the impossible possible. That is what can happen through us, that the impossible can become somehow possible. But we have to grow and evolve individually and collectively. And that's how consciousness evolves. That's how, as a whole, we get to grow. So, cultivating inner peace, this is the perfection of patience. Am I glad to know that it's impossible? Right? Now, he says that patience is the most important of all the bodhisattva practices, the most important one, because without it, every single other one of your practices and the perfections will not succeed. Patience is what we need to bring to everything. And he describes it as not just waiting, but it's the art of enduring difficulties with a peaceful and open heart. Can we feel that that's kind of impossible? And yet it's not, right? How many people in here have experienced a difficulty that somehow they did manage to meet it with a peaceful and an open heart? It is possible. And we want to cultivate a practice so that it's not just a random one-off, so it doesn't surprise us, so that we are actually bringing consciousness into this understanding of what patience is. So he talks about how difficult times are the most fruitful time for spiritual practice. How many people in here, when everything starts spiraling out of control, the first thing that you let go of is your practice? Right? First thing you let go of, it's your practice. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I got to deal with all this other stuff. When things get hard, that's actually when we need our practice even more. And when we practice when things are going well for us, that's an opportunity to build a muscle so that when things aren't going well, we have some muscle memory that we can tap into. And he talks about how patience allows us to transform difficult circumstances from misfortunes or disasters into spiritual benefit. Does this sound like unity? Right? That we know that things are working for our greatest good even when it doesn't feel like it. This is the same idea. That even when it feels as if our world is coming apart at the seams, that is actually somehow in service to something that we are being invited to grow into, to understand, to deepen. That transformational process is what he's talking about. And this concept of patience is what is inviting us as an anchor through that process. This is very Buddhist, right? Our lives are ripe with suffering. Is it true? It is, right? Our lives absolutely can be ripe with suffering. Now, what we hold in unity is that that's not the place where we're going to place all of our attention, right? But we can't ignore it. And so he is saying the same exact thing. He's saying when what's happening can't be changed, there's no choice but to turn toward the difficult situation. How often do we actually do that? Because in my experience, what we do is we argue with reality, right? We argue with it. We get angry, we get frustrated, we get annoyed, we're in so much pain, so we lash out, we need to blame, we need to justify, and then we might become obsessed. How many people in here have lain awake at night with conversations running through your head over and over and over and over again? I should have said, and they should have said, and we create this space and we say things all the time like, why can't people just fill in the blank? I can't believe this is happening. How hard is it really to fill in the blank? If they had only, what I should have said. Can you feel how all that is, all we're doing is arguing with reality? We're not actually turning towards the discomfort. Now, is it okay if we have moments where we go to this place? Of course it is. But the point is that we don't want to live there. We don't want to live in this place. So we talked last week about the 3 refuges. And it's a framework to remind us about how we can stay connected to universal goodness even when our world is breaking open, and how we can also, even when we are in the midst of the most dire circumstances for ourselves, that we can still stay committed to being in the benefit of others. And it's, I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in Dharma. And I take refuge in Sangha. And so Buddha, the Mahayana tradition, as Fisher talks about it, holds the Buddha in much the same way we hold the Christ consciousness, that it is an eternal principle of unconditional love. So I take refuge, I return to, so in Latin, refuge can mean to return. So I can return to unconditional love. I take refuge in Dharma. Dharma is the teaching. Dharma is these principles of truth. So I can return to those principles of spiritual truth. And I take refuge in Sangha, which is community. I can return to the inherent belonging of all, because what Fisher is talking about with Sangha is that it's not just the people who are in our immediate world. It is all beings are our Sangha. And so we can take refuge, we can return to that understanding of that inherent belonging. And I shared last week how beautifully these line up with our 3 core values. That connectivity, living in awareness of unity with all, that's taking refuge in unconditional love. Authenticity, being true to ourselves, our value and spirit, that's taking refuge in the teachings. Inclusivity, cultivating a safe space to celebrate diversity and value the uniqueness of every person. Can you feel how that is returning to this place and sense of belonging and community for all? And as I said last week, this isn't a coincidence. This is principle. This is truth shining through in a different framework with different language, but can you feel how we're all pointing to the same thing? So patience in the Buddhist teaching they focus patience on 3 areas of our life. They focus on personal hardship, and that sort of revolves around physical and emotional pain. They focus on what it means to actually be in relationship with other people. And that really focuses on anger and conflict. And it also focuses on the truth of life's impermanence and how fragile and vulnerable we can find ourselves, and how afraid we are of that vulnerability and that fragility. So by practicing patience, we cultivate our capacity to pause and recenter in truth, just like Shay read in the reading. Oh, shocking, the reading aligns with what we're teaching, right? So let's look at personal hardship, right? Physical and emotional pain. Now, I have shared often my story of navigating physical pain and emotional pain. Anybody in here never had either one of those? Okay, just checking in. So When we're practicing patience with these pieces of our own personal hardships, what we're being invited to do is to be with the breath, moment to moment, present moment awareness, and to be with the sensations of the pain. Again, remember, we're not ignoring the pain or the discomfort, we're turning toward it. And then the patience part. So how many people in here have sat in meditation and, the pain that starts to grow, maybe in your neck or your back or your hips or your knees, your legs fall asleep. The practice of patience would be that you don't move. You don't move. You stay with the discomfort. You don't adjust. You don't shift. You don't avoid. You don't blame. I've certainly done that in my practice. God, this cushion is just so uncomfortable, and if I had done this better, I wouldn't be in so much pain. So we can blame our environment and don't obsess. How many people have done that in their practice, where all of a sudden all you're focusing on is how painful it is. It's so painful. Oh my God, it's so painful. It hurts. It hurts. He talks about how we navigate physical pain is a way for us to grow a muscle so that we can navigate emotional pain. Because the same thing is true for our emotional pain. Don't move. Don't adjust. Don't shift. Don't avoid. Don't blame. Don't obsess. Be with the emotional pain. So what he's talking about is again, it's not about being quiet. It's not about being passive. It's not about suffering silently. It is about cultivating our capacity for discipline, for tenacity, for commitment, for courage, for flexibility, and most importantly, for self-awareness. Can you feel how that practice of patience is inviting us to build these muscles? And if we're building these muscles, do you think we'll be able to meet the world with more equanimity and calm? So then he moves into relationships. And basically he says, people can really suck. And they're gonna piss you off. You're gonna get angry. It's part of what it means to be in this world and to rub up against each other when everybody has choice and everybody's learning and growing. And so we want to hold anger not as something that we need to be ashamed of or not as something we need to run away from, but we can hold anger as an inner alarm system that is pointing to the fact that we need to pay attention to something. Something is demanding that we wake up and we notice something. And so the questions that he is inviting us to sit with when we recognize that we're angry is, what is really happening? Do I feel threatened? Do I feel frustrated? Do I feel thwarted? Do I feel afraid and weak? Do I feel vulnerable? Can you see how much more information we get from those questions than from justifying why we feel so angry? We want to get underneath the anger because the anger is saying, look at this. Look deeper. What's actually happening there? And so when we're practicing patience in our relationships with others, and I would also say, how many people in here get angry with themselves? Same practice, right? Same practice. You got to look beneath the anger. We have to be willing to grow in our understanding and self-awareness, to actually really look at what's under there. And the invitation is to move past that impulsive, he calls it emotional destructiveness, Because when we are acting from that pure, emotional, impulsive, reactive, I'm not safe, it is violent. And it's not just violent to ourselves and to it's just violent. And so when we practice patience, we are allowing ourselves to just breathe and to look deeper. Because the actions that we might take from feeling vulnerable are going to be very different than the actions we might take from being pissed off at what somebody did. And his whole thing is that there's a tremendous amount of energy around anger. So he talks about, can we purify it so that we can take all that energy, but that it's not something that is destructive, but it's something that we can use for good. And then in relationships, again, he spends some time talking about conflict. And he spends time talking about conflict avoidance. Anybody in here conflict avoidant? I'm not. I get to say that. But I love what he says about conflict. He says, conflict is about the failure of love, and love is what matters most. So in those moments of conflict, the practice is to ask yourself, what am I forgetting? What am I forgetting right now? How do I feel that love has been betrayed or that love has failed? What am I longing for? Not the solution to whatever the problem is. What am I longing for? Wholeness, beauty, resourcing. What am I longing for? And where am I feeling alienated? Because when we're in conflict, we feel separate, we feel alone, we feel alienated from. And so he talks about this being a really advanced practice, right? This is an advanced, we can look out at the world and see that we are struggling to figure out how to bring this into the conflicts that are present in our own political system, in the world. So he says to look for points of connection and love. That's the first thing that goes, right? When we're in conflict, we feel that love has been betrayed or love has failed, and we feel the absence of it, so we stop looking for it. I was having a conversation with someone, and they were talking about something that someone did and how angry it made them. And I said, can you see what they did as an act of love? To the best of their ability, they were trying to love you. It felt like betrayal because you felt like they weren't meeting your needs. But can we expand our understanding of what might be possible here? In our book study, we call it assuming good intentions. Can we remember that everyone is truly doing the best they can? If they could do something different, they would. So we often think that they're just not doing the best they can, that they should do better, they're capable of doing better. So we need to step back and understand that in every moment, everyone is truly doing the best that they can. You as well. How do you beat yourself up? Because you have some expectation of how you think you're supposed to show up and you don't. Can you allow yourself to understand that you are truly doing the best that you can? We have to turn towards and investigate any strong emotions that arise. So you can bring the practices from anger into this advanced practice. And then the big one is we have to cultivate an awareness of oneness over our self-focus. We get very absorbed in what we need and what we're supposed to have and how people are supposed to blah, 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 blah. And we forget that love is the fabric of everything, that there is no separation. How can we be a benefit to others? How can we find that point of connectivity? Because it's through the points of connectivity that conflict is resolved, because in those points of connectivity, love is remembered. And he says, too, that in every conflict, there is a kernel of love. Breathe into that. In every conflict, there is a kernel of love. And that we actually have more in common than we don't. We just don't see it. And then the last area that he looks at is this idea that life is impermanent. And we ask, why am I still struggling? Why isn't life easier? Why am I not a better person? Why did I lose my job or my relationship or my home? Why am I sick? Why are they sick? Why did they have to die? These are hard questions. And he's inviting us to bring patience and humility with just this human journey. So we're invited to bring our divine understanding to our humanness. We're invited to practice patience because life is continually changing and transforming. Can we just accept it? Nothing is going to stay the way it was. Nothing. Right? So as I say often, you can get on board with that, or you can get dragged by it. And then can we practice patience with our own and others' growth and evolution? That goes back to everyone's doing the best they can. And then can we also practice patience because we are on an incredible journey of revelation. The entire purpose, what we believe in unity, and what he is talking about is that we are here to be the Bodhisattva. We are here to be the Christ consciousness. We are here to be the Buddha in time and in space. Can we be patient with that process of revelation and bring that compassion and love that is what Christ consciousness and Buddha consciousness is ultimately all about? Can we actually bring it to ourselves and to the world? Because it's limitless. That compassion and love is limitless. We somehow get caught up in lack. Oh, there's not enough. There's not enough love. They don't love me enough. There's only an abundance of love and compassion. So I loved this quote. If you can find a solution, what's the point of being upset? If you can't find a solution, what's the point of being upset? We create our own suffering. So, this famous quote, right? Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. We are being invited into a place where we understand that we are resourced to navigate the pain. We're actually built for it. We actually have so much that we can bring online to navigate pain and loss. The suffering does not have to be part of the equation. I loved this prayer that I found. Somebody might have sent it to me. If you sent it to me, thank you. In every moment, all things may be experienced. I allow in this moment the opportunity to shift my perspective so I may see the beauty, richness, and wholeness of the moment. And as I do so, I experience infinite patience, for nothing is lacking in my reality. Can you feel how this is returning to the principles? This is returning to the truth of love. This is returning to the things that are the foundation that are going to anchor us, and we get to live those foundational teachings through the practice of patience. He goes on to say that with patience and imagination, we can expand the nature of the suffering and make it something meaningful. And he goes on to say, the pain you feel is the same pain others feel. And in this moment, thousands or even millions of others are feeling it. The pain isn't yours. It belongs to all of us. So the end of suffering doesn't mean the end of pain, but rather it is the transformation of suffering into solidarity and love. That to me is just so profound. So deeply, deeply profound. And Elizabeth Middleburg sent me this video that I want to play because I think it highlights the fact that through connection and love, that no matter what is happening in our life, that those connections are there even when we don't know it. Can we play it?
In a minute, we'll show them that they have more in common than they think.
Hej alle sammen. Tak fordi I er kommet. Thomas, vil du stille dig der? Og Aske? Thomas, du bor med din familie i et dejligt hus på Vinkelhøj 8 i Viby. Før I flyttede ind, var det faktisk dit barndomshjem, Aske.
Det er rigtigt. Ja. Fodbold i haven om sommeren. Og...
Det kan jeg lige forestille mig.
Ja, præcis.
Vi laver ikke andet.
Mathilde, vil du komme herop? Hej. I to har faktisk stået over for hinanden før.
Okay.
Men der var I 12 år. Og de var i en rugbykamp.
Okay, ja.
Kampen endte i øvrigt 42-0 til Askes hold.
Tak for kampen.
Ja, tak.
Inger. Mathilde, den nat, du kom til verden for 27 år siden på Christiania, var Inger det første menneske, du så.
Var du min jordmor? Nå. Det var så fint. Kan du huske det?
Anna, i 2012 er din mand ude at løbe en tur. Pludselig falder han om med hjertestop.
Ja.
Heldigvis er der en, der reagerer hurtigt og redder ham. Knud, vil du komme herop?
Just below the surface, a total stranger can turn out to be someone you're actually connected to.
Det går jo et stykke tid siden.
Someone who rouses forgotten memories. Like the very first kiss. Someone who reminds you that you're not alone. But that somebody else also has a bulldog named Prebin. Someone like Thomas, who put out a fire at Vibeka's place.
Vi er så taknemmelige for, at brandvæsenet kom så hurtigt.
Someone you've been gaming with for years, but
Kender I to hinanden?
have never met.
Altamon, mød Lil Salt.
Det er løgn. Det er topfraggeren.
Jeg var fandme kendt den anden i 3-4 år, uden at nogensinde mødt den anden, eller set den anden før. Altså...
If we approach each other, we might find out that we share the same destiny.
Rana og Maha, I kom til Danmark fra Syrien for 4 år siden. Dorit og Jan, I har en lignende historie fra 2. verdenskrig.
Jeg har prøvet at være flygtning, og jeg vil aldrig glemme det. Det har betydet usigeligt meget.
Og Rikke, Det var din oldefar, der risikerede sit liv ved at sejle Jan over Øresund den oktoberaften i 1943.
It's easy to mind your own business. It takes a little more effort to mind the community. But doesn't the feeling of having something in common, something that connects us, make it all worthwhile? TV2, all that we share.
So it's easy to mind your own business, but it's much more challenging to mind the community. All those hidden connections. And can you feel how, when you come together in that place of pain and suffering and loss, but you come together, that it's not just yours. It belongs to all of us. And in that, there is freedom. There is a sweetness, is what Fisher calls it, that there's a sweetness to it when we don't think of it just as ours, but we can open and expand and understand that it's everyone's. So we're going to step into a meditation practice in just a minute. So Jeremy, come on up and get ready. It's this Tonglen meditation practice, which is truly one of the most powerful meditation practices I have ever done myself. It is one of the practices that's in the book at the end of this chapter, and I thought we could do it together so that you have a sense of how it flows. But the idea is that we're going to get still. We're going to imagine ourselves sitting across from ourselves. We're going to inhale, and as we inhale, we're going to draw all the pain out of ourselves. And then as we're going to imagine that pain is being transformed into healing energy. And we're going to exhale that healing energy back to ourselves. And then we're going to change the person who's sitting across from us to someone that we love. And we're going to do the same thing. Take it in, transform it into healing, send it back. And then we're going to do it with somebody who we might feel kind of neutral about. And we're going to take all that pain and we're going to heal, light, love, and we're going to send it back. And then we imagine a small red dot, the suffering of the world, the suffering. And we're going to imagine that growing and growing and growing and growing and growing till it's as large as possible. And then I will invite you to know with me, and you don't have to say it out loud, but that suffering is not mine. It belongs to everyone and everything. And then you'll be invited to just know that that red is beautiful. Feel like something we can step into together? All right, let's try it. So we're going to step into a practice of meditation, and we begin any of these kinds of processes by anchoring love. So I'm going to just invite you to quiet and to still. I'm going to invite you to just allow the heart to open. Allow yourself to drop down or rise up and to actually feel the love that is palpably present as the very truth of your life, as the truth of all life. This place, this space of wholeness that is deep enough and wide enough. You are deep enough and wide enough to hold everything and anything. Just allow yourself to rest in that spaciousness. And as you're resting, I'm going to invite you to just see yourself sitting across from you. See yourself in all your magnificent, flawed humanness. to see your perfectly imperfectness. And on the next inhale, I'm going to invite you to just inhale any pain that you see in yourself. Just bring it into this love, bring it in to this space of limitless possibility. And allow that pain to transform and transmute. Allow it to be lighter. Feeling the healing energy. And when you feel like it's time, just exhale all that love, all that light, all that healing energy to yourself. And if you need to inhale more pain, you can inhale more pain. Transform that into light and love. And exhale, healing, joy, possibility. And then invite someone you love into your consciousness. See them sitting there. And if you still need to release some pain, they can just sit down next to you. And just on the inhale, whatever pain you think it is that they might be carrying, just inhale it. Take the pain into yourself and allow it to be transformed into love and light and healing energy. And exhale. And if you need to breathe in more pain again, breathe it in. Know that you are the space where the impossible is made possible right now. Exhaling love and light into them, into you. And invite someone else to sit down, someone who's perhaps neutral in your world. And once again, inhale, welcome their pain, which is also your pain, which is everyone's pain. And allow that pain to be transformed as light, as love, as healing energy. And exhale all that love into them. One more time, breathe in all that pain. Oh, and feel the alchemic process within yourself to transmute, to transform. And exhale, healing, light and love. Just see that small red dot, symbol of the suffering, and allow that dot to just grow and become larger and larger, filling, expanding, encompassing all that there is. Expand it as large as you can. And then say to yourself, suffering is not mine. It belongs to everyone and everything. Suffering is not mine. It belongs to everyone and everything. Suffering is not mine. It belongs to everyone and everything. And allow yourself to feel that red as something beautiful. And let's just rest here for a moment in the beauty of our human experience that is held so magnificently in this container that is love and light and healing. Let's just rest here together. And the invitation is to just bless this practice. Bless however it looked or felt or showed up. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's a practice. And just allowing some sense of inner surety of your divine humanness to be what will carry you forth this day and every day. And so it is. Amen. Ashe.